machine. No use to fight back. MMA, knock your nigga head like a KKK. Hush your nigga mouth if you can't walk the talk. Smoke. Me running, really, really fast. Ginger eye on the back of me black ass, chasing me like a devil, pot belly of the beast. Calling me a dickhead, there is no resist. Closing inch by inch, got me in a pinch. Modern day Scotty Rock a laundry lynch. Chasing me like a devil, pot belly of the beast. Calling me a dickhead, there is no resist. Oh, close, smoke, me running really, really fast. Ginger eye on the back of me black ass, chasing me like a devil, pot belly of the beast. Calling me a dickhead, there is no resist. Closing inch by inch, got me in a pinch. Modern day Scotty Rock a laundry lynch. Are you and get turned out? No, 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 no. Suck Sullivan, don't mess with his load, or you will get undone. Spinning round and round, bleeding on the ground. Scotty Rocker, laundry killer, no remorse in this beamer. Fabric assassin, hood cleaner, coming for your Rasta queen. Rape on the washing machine, no use to fight back. MMA, knock your nigga head like a KKK. Hush your nigga mouth if you can't walk the talk. Smokes. Me running really, really fast. Ginger eye round the back of me black ass, chasing me like a devil, pot belly of the beast. Calling me a dickhead, there is no resist. Closing inch by inch, got me in a pinch. Modern day Scotty Rock a laundry lynch.
What is going on, everybody? How we doing today? As usual, hope we're doing well. It is a Thursday, so we're doing our Thursday stream. What is going on? Whoa, Hog. Hope you're doing well tonight. As usual, I'm rushing around. You know, it's just been a busy day altogether. I have not had time to do fucking anything. I've been juggling 5 things at a time. But we're here. All right, we're here. We're gonna have a good time. At least I am. I don't know about you guys. If you don't have a good time, I think that's a you problem. If anything, I think it's your fault if you don't have a good time. Okay, all right. What's going on, Bailey? Hope you're doing well. Scott Max Landis is being interviewed by the Twins and Bashir. Who's Max Landis? The name sounds familiar, right? Like the name Max Landis, but I'm not 100% sure that I know who he is exactly. You know, who is that? Who is that? I am curious. Sorry, I'm just gonna check something real quick. I want to make sure I did what I was supposed to do here. It is looking good. I'm just gonna put my phone on silent so I don't have to deal with, like, vibrating and shit like that. But yeah. Hope everyone's doing all right out there tonight. I'm doing pretty good because I got an Israeli lira is what I got. I got my hands on an Israeli coin. It's from the 1970s. This is actually, I didn't know this. This is from before they started utilizing shekels again. They had what they call liras, and I got this thing off of Mercari, which is a place that I sell on, but it's also a really cool place for a lot of coins and stuff like that, from what I've found. I think Mercari is better than eBay. It's just that Mercari doesn't have as much of a user base, but you find some really cool stuff there, you know? Oh man. Anyway, he was on RLM about 10 years ago, writer and son of the famous director. What's RLM? I'm not 100% sure what RLM means. Excuse me, geez. He got Me Too'd back when allegations ruined your life, and unfortunately, he had his career stalled. Nothing came legally from it, though. Of course, nothing came from it legally, you know? 99% of the time with that Me Too shit, it was not about actually getting any kind of justice or anything like that. What it was about was trying to career climb. Me Too allegations very rarely ever came in the form of, like, a random dude who has nothing to offer. And usually when it came in that form, it was just because it was like low level, like, a teenager at a high school wants some attention. So she accuses like some fucking guy of doing something, right? It's disgusting. Or like some bitch at a college or something like that is usually how it would end up going. But typically, Me Too allegations were a color revolution. They were a form of great leap forward in American society, where a bunch of women started taking over powerful positions within companies and institutions and things like that. They were always trying to do that in one way or another, but that was their big push. That was like a huge push to be able to do it. And so yeah, it doesn't surprise me that that guy would get accused. I mean, I don't know him. I don't know anything about him. I don't even know what RLM means. I don't know. But it's not surprising that a guy who apparently was a famous writer, um, as well as the son of a famous director, he would get accused of something because he probably had access to some kind of position or some kind of activity that some talentless hoe wanted, some talentless hack bitch wanted, and he ended up getting bumped off, is what happened. Um, Scott, how do you feel about the former NBA players trying to pressure the WNBA to legally clarify their rules on what a woman is because they've been trying to say trans players would be welcome? Yeah, I mean, honestly, if the WNBA said that trans players are welcome in their league, I would try. I shit you not, I would try out. Like I would do it just for the fuck of it. Because honestly, I've seen these WNBA players play. I have not played basketball since I think like middle school, maybe like the 6th or 7th grade, right? Uh I know I could do better than some of those fucking WNBA chicks. It's insane, you know? But I mean, yeah, like obviously, look, here's the thing about the whole trans thing. Who was pushing for the trans ideology years ago? There's not that many trans people in the world, even nowadays, with all the grooming that goes on to try and force children to be trans. There's simply not that many trans or even just LGBT people in the world today. So there was not going to be a social movement that was made up of just those people that was going to go crazy and, like, uh, usher in a new age of like men pretending to be women and vice versa, right? That's not how it was going to go. The way it happened was about 10 years ago, maybe a little less, maybe a little more. A lot of women, particularly white women, but women in general, they decided they would take up this sword in the name of trans ideology. And as a result, we ended up with 10 years of having to deal with murderous trans people trying to kill children and use bathrooms with, well, children, right? Because they have an obsession with children. They always want to be around children. They don't want to go do a drag queen story hour or trans story hour or anything like that. They don't want to do that at like the old folks home or anything like that. No, 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 no. They only want to do it at like the library with a bunch of 5-year olds, 6-year olds, 10-year olds, et cetera, right? It's interesting. But I'm not the first one to call that out either. It's just overall, when I think about like all this like gender ideology stuff, I just think that a lot of people are reaping what they sow. I think 10 years ago, a lot of these women who were in the WNBA, I mean, a lot of them, let's be honest, would have been like, teenagers in the first place. So I'm not going to hate them or anything like that, but they most likely would have been like, actually, no, I think that I think that women can be born inside men's bodies, and I think we need to treat them with the respect that they deserve. And I think they're real women. Like, they would sit there and they would try to ruin your life over it. If you were like, actually, no, I don't think that's how that works. It's not how it works. So overall, when it comes to like the whole women's sports debate, um, yeah, I mean, my logical mind says obviously women's sports are women's sports. No trans people should be allowed. But also, geez, I scarfed down my dinner. So, like, now that I'm sitting here talking and everything like that, the gas wants to escape. The bottom line of what I'm saying about the trans ideology thing is the people who pushed trans ideology are the ones who are getting fucked the most by trans ideology right now. And that is women, particularly white women, right? So, overall, I got to be honest with you. I do like, yeah, if you ask me logically, I don't think trans women should be allowed in women's sports, but also go fuck yourselves. You asked for it, and you got it. And this is why I have a bit of a chip on my shoulder when it comes to women, right? And we were talking about that a little bit last time. I didn't do that great of a job of expressing how I feel about a lot of the gynocentrism in the world today, but that is why I have a bit of a chip on my shoulder, is because when women say we need to accept and normalize anything, what they mean is we need to invade men's spaces to try and make it so that it is all about women, or just straight up subvert it to ruin it for the men that are in the space. That's really what they mean when they say accept and normalize and tolerate and diversity and all this stuff. They want their locker rooms for themselves, but the men's locker rooms, no, no, no. They get fucking whatever the hell the cause celeb is supposed to be at that time, you know? When it comes to their bathrooms, they get their bathrooms, but men, they got to deal with this. When it comes to women in video games, women get to be in video games, but how dare a man decide he wants to make a video game for a man, right? Like the target audience being men, right? It's all just the gender war, right? That's really what it is. And that's basically everything that women do, is they just like propagate this gender war that men never wanted in the first place. That men, we love women. Men love women. Why the fuck would we want to like argue with or like have this fucking big issue with women? That's insane, you know? But overall, um, I mean, hey, it is what it is. In a perfect world, we would be able to say no, fucking trans people don't belong in women's sports. In a perfect world, we would be able to say that, but it's not a perfect world, and the women were the biggest propagators of trans ideology in the first place. So I got to be honest with you, it doesn't bother me that trans people are trying to get into women's sports outside of a logical conclusion that I could draw. I don't have some kind of emotional attachment to trying to keep women's sports for women. It's they can go fuck themselves. Oh, excuse me. Man, sorry, I'm just looking around here. Do you think Ronda Rousey at her peak could have competed with similar weight class men? No, like she couldn't compete with Floyd Mayweather now. That was the thing back then, is people were saying, dude, Ronda Rousey could beat Floyd Mayweather. And it's like, yeah, I mean, if you taught Floyd Mayweather absolutely no takedown defense, if you didn't bother to teach him how to stand up from the bottom, then yeah, like Ronda Rousey could probably beat him. But do you think that Mayweather going into an MMA fight would not learn how to sprawl as well as how to keep his hips away from Rousey's hips? Of course he would, right? And then the other piece of that was that I'm pretty sure I heard people saying that Ronda Rousey could outbox Mayweather at one point or another. And if that is true, if how I remember it is true, it's like to think that anybody would ever say that, including Joe Rogan, by the way. Joe Rogan was one of the guys who kind of put that forward, and he had to walk it back, like, I think within the last 2 to 4 years. I remember him saying something like, yeah, I was kind of, I was not really thinking with my logical brain there. Um, but yeah, like Floyd Mayweather now, who I believe is in his like late 40s, maybe even early 50s at this time. Um, he would beat the fuck out of a prime Ronda Rousey. It would be no competition. No competition at all, you know? When it comes to the whole men versus women debate, I got to be honest with you, like it does annoy me when you see people, most of who have never stepped into a martial arts gym in their life, try to say, dude, it doesn't matter how much a woman trains, she's never going to be able to take on a 260-pound man. Well, first off, most men are not 260 pounds, right? If somebody's 260 pounds, they're either fat or they're jacked. Most people are not jacked, and most people who are going to be 260 are just going to be fat, right? So they're not going to be very athletic. Even if they are athletic, they're going to be weighed down. I'm 250 right now, and when I roll, I've been rolling a little bit again. I've been working out a little bit again, and I feel I'm weighed down by the weight that I have on me. I simply cannot move as well as I want to, right? Um, but consider the fact that most people also don't train at all. So they will make bad decisions. A woman who trains, even if she's only 135 pounds, right? Even if she's only 125 pounds, if she takes a guy who does not train by surprise, and there's the key surprise, okay? She will most likely be able to do enough to at least escape that guy, at the very least escape that guy. Okay. Now, there are also situations where if you take, say, like a 145-pound trained woman and put her up against like a 145-pound or less trained man, that, yeah, she might be able to overcome that obstacle, right? 145 pounds or less, and he's untrained. Meanwhile, this 145, this 145-pound woman is trained and like well trained, not like, oh yeah, I did Krav Maga for a week. I mean, like trains like she's a fighter trained. Yeah, the gap would not be as wide as people want it to be. But overall, now that we've taken that, we've gotten it out of the way. Yes, the average, or not average, but the someone like Ronda Rousey would not be able to beat Floyd Mayweather, is kind of what I'm trying to say, you know? Like, the man versus woman debate is a lot more complicated than people will make it out to be, but like it's there is a certain slant, there is a certain direction that tends to go in, you know. What's going on, Butthole? What's going on, RKE Productions? What's going on, Andrew Meneses? Hope you guys are doing well tonight. Let me double check to make sure I didn't miss anybody on Kick or Twitch. No, nobody from Kick or Twitch is here. At least nobody is speaking right now. Feel free to say hello if you are. But men's sports, women's sports, they, them sports, 3 leagues. Yeah, like that's the obvious answer. The only issue is there's not that many they, thems that want to do sports. Even like women's wrestling. In the last, what's it been like? Just about 13 or 14 years. I graduated high school about 13 or 14 years ago. My senior year of high school, I could count on one hand how many female wrestlers I had seen in 4 years. There were just not that many female wrestlers. So there was not going to be like a women's wrestling team. There was not going to be a women's state championship. Oh, excuse me. there was going to be no like women's dual meets or anything like that. The sport has progressed and you're seeing more women in the sport nowadays. It's actually one of the fastest growing sports on the women's side is high school or folk style wrestling. And I think I personally think that's a good thing. But um, like now you might have a women's state tournament, you might have women's sectionals, you might have a women's team that does dual meets against other women's teams and stuff like that. You might have that now, but before now what you had was women who would join the men's team and compete with the men exclusively, and that's pretty much it, you know. uh, so that is what would end up happening if trans sports were taken that seriously, as to where they were like, okay, let's try to just like include them. Is you would have a lot of men who identify as women who would be forced to either A, go with the men's division, which then they would make some kind of big political thing about it, like, but I'm not a girl. Fuck, but I'm not a guy. You would have that kind of situation, or they would end up going with girls, and then there would be another big political situation where all the girls are like, we don't want to go with a man. And it's just a fucking dumb situation. It's a dumb situation, and you don't want to deal with it. So overall, it's like, what are you gonna do? you know for one thing, you can get your kid some real help. You can get your kid some real help. How about that one? um I think things are coming to a head with modern Western women. So many people are noticing the awful behavior, the policies they vote for, and their lack of accountability. This can't last. Well, yeah, you're right. This can't last, RKE. What's going to happen about it? I have no clue. I hope something good happens about it. I hope it's not something that is like terrible and awful and everything like that. But I mean, you're going to get to a point where people get tired of seeing babies murdered, whether they're still in the womb or if they are outside of the womb, you know? And it really just shows you that there's no major difference between the left and the right when it comes to women. You have these women on both sides of the aisle who they disagree on economics. They disagree on like uh men's sports, women's sports, and things like that, the stuff we were just talking about. But they all think that a woman who murders their baby or babies should be like given a hug, should be given a hug and a blanket and some hot cocoa, and she should be able to just go home. Just get out of here, you crazy kid. Get out of here, you crazy kid. um that's why that's one of the reasons the Lindsay Clancy thing is such a big deal to me, is because for one thing, it's like it's in Massachusetts, right? Lindsay Clancy, I believe she was from Boston, but the court that she was going to be at was like Plymouth, or maybe it was like Plymouth County or something like that. I forget if we even have a Plymouth County. I forget all the counties in Massachusetts. There's like, I think 12 or 13 of them. I could be wrong though, but um, this is a woman who lives within 45 minutes of me, and she murdered her three kids in cold blood, premeditated. And so many fucking people are sitting here like, she's the victim though. But she's the victim. And then on the other side of that, you have Maura Healey, who she just legalized abortion up to birth, which means if you're due on November 15th and it's November 14th, you can still get your baby aborted. You are more than prominent. You are like ready to burst. You're ready to burst, and you just decide, you get a wild hair up your ass, which women are never. Women, they never change their minds, they never flake. No, we ain't got nothing to worry about there, of course. But if a woman, as improbable as it is, gets a wild hair up her ass and decides she doesn't want the kid anymore, the doctor is going to inject a fully formed baby with some kind of fucking drug that is going to stop the heart. And it's going to be very painful for the child, by the way. It's like, holy fucking shit, dude. We're dealing with some of the worst that society has to offer. To do something to children like that makes you the worst. That's why we dislike Epstein so much. It would be bad enough if Epstein was like doing stuff to 25-year-old women and stuff like that. But no, apparently he was trying to target women who are under the age of 18. And that is what makes him as bad as he is. It would have been bad enough doing what he did, okay? But to then turn around and be like, actually, no, I want underage. It's like, whoo, no, 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 you know? And it's funny because these same people on the left wing, not to even be like these fucking democrats, but like these same people on the left wing who are trying desperately, desperately, desperately to make pedophile their new Nazi word. I don't know if you guys have noticed this. Instead of calling everybody Nazis, they still do that, but now they're trying to call people pedophiles and stuff like that. It's a very weird thing that they're going on about right now. They are the types of people who are okay with murdering children and grooming children to try and make them trans, and like bringing them to pride parades where dudes are swinging their dicks around, and there's all this other fetish bullshit. They want their kids to be around drag queens and everything like that. It's a very interesting thing how they're accusing anybody who disagrees with them of exactly what they're doing. And I don't mean like the Democrats are the real Nazis kind of thing. That was always cringe and annoying, right? Nazism is a very specific thing. They were communists is what they were. Just call them communists. But like these guys are literal pedophiles. They are into trying to groom children. They're into murdering children, right? They get this weird borderline, and sometimes it's not even borderline. Sometimes it's just sexual thrill over trying to fucking like kill kids, whether it's in the womb or sometimes outside of the womb. It's mm, we're dealing with some of the worst people that you could ever have living. We're dealing with the kinds of people that if it was the Old Testament, if it was the Old Testament, God would have said, "Leave none of them alive." And that's not like a threat of violence or anything like that. I'm not telling anyone to do anything like that. You definitely should not do something like that. But like, this is exactly why God told us. I forget exactly which civilization it was, and I think he might have did it with a couple of civilizations. And when I say us, what I mean is the Israelites, right? This is why God told the Israelites to go in and leave no survivors on, if not just one, then a couple of different neighborly factions that existed in the ancient world, because that's the type of shit that they were doing, was like sacrificing children, using them for different Jeffrey Epstein type stuff and everything like that, you know? And I mean, hey, it's look, you can't get angry. I know it's very frustrating. I know it's easy to get very angry, but you can't get angry because that's what they want out of you. They want you to be angry. They are like vampires with that anger. It fuels them. It gives them a sense of satisfaction that you're so upset. The only thing you can do, the only real reaction, is to ignore what you can ignore and be disgusted with the things that you cannot ignore. And that is a big problem with the world today when it comes to the way that we treat women, is that we do not treat them with a sense of disgust anymore. I even see dudes that you would consider to be more right wing on Twitter who, when they learn that some chick cheated on her boyfriend or her husband in like a really fucked up way, they don't go, "Wow, what a piece of shit. I hope I never meet that woman, and I hope I never meet a woman like her. She should be ashamed." And honestly, I don't know what to say. She's just gross. Get her away from me. Keep her away from me. If you're like her, stay away from me, because I don't want to be around a subhuman like you. Instead of saying something like that, to that effect, they go, "Oh man, she for the streets. Hey yo, she for the streets and shit." They react in that kind of way, which is exactly how these women want you to react, you know? You might be either disgusted, or you might be so flabbergasted by it that the only way you can like respond to it is by being like, "Hey yo, for the streets. Oh man, shit, see you in the gym, brother." Like, that may be the only way you are able to react. In that case, it's better to not react at all, because women will take that as a good thing. They will take that as a good thing. They'll take that as like "Oh, I totally just owned this guy. Haha, that's right. I'm badass like that." you have to be able to tell a woman that she disgusts you in a real way, and not in a way that just shows that you're like, like it has to be a genuine disgust. You have to say it with conviction and finality, not like you're gross, that. Not like I'm trying to have a conversation with you and let you know how gross you are. It's supposed to be, yo, you're vile. I really don't want to talk to you. Please leave me alone. I'm gonna go that way. Please don't follow me. Please stay the hell away from me. Okay, I don't want to be around someone who does the shit that you do. You're really not the kind of person I want to associate with. You need it to be that. You need it to be like, hey, leave me alone. You do not have access to me anymore. I am cutting off my access to you. You are not entitled to that access. I am out of here. And the thing is, I'm not saying it's like you don't want to treat it like you're like, that's right. I'm not your friend anymore. What up? That's not even how you want to treat it, right? That's not the mindset you want to go into it with. But at the very least, if enough people are gonna do that, you're gonna start noticing that some women actually do kind of get the picture, right? I'm not saying all of them. I'm not even saying like a vast majority of them, but you're going to notice that when you express that disgust, there's going to be women out there who they notice, oh, that guy that I like, or that guy that I just want to be around. Uh, I noticed that he doesn't really fuck with that kind of behavior. I don't think I fuck with that kind of behavior either. I kind of was looking at that from afar going, oh, what the fuck is this hoe's problem? But now that I know that that guy is absolutely like not for that kind of thing, I don't feel like I have to do that. Or I feel like I can at least come out and be like, hey, yeah, that is disgusting. I can't believe she did that. I can't believe you did that, lady. What the fuck is your problem? We took away the standards, the standards. We took away the societal standards that were imposed on women as not just women, but also, heckin' wholesome, good people, right? And because of that, now women just act however the fuck they want all the time. And then on top of that, they also created a parallel attention economy for themselves, which is why when you go to any woman's Instagram page or Twitter or whatever, where she's posting pictures of herself, regardless of what those pictures are, regardless of how that woman looks, she could be 600 pounds, she could be 20 pounds, she could be showing tits and ass, she could be covered up like a Muslim, right? You're gonna see a bunch of women who are like doing the clap emoji, saying, oh, you go girl, and all this other stuff, because a lot of the time women, when they can't get that positive attention from a man, they decide they will take the next best thing, which is positive attention from their girlies, from their gal pals and everything like that. And that's where you get some of this stuff where, like, it's always bullshit when a woman says, like, I'm not doing it for guys. I'm doing it so that I'll impress other girls. Like, they're lying, but they're not. Obviously, they want guys, but it's not even 100% a lie when they say I'm doing it for the girls, because, like, if they get compliments from the girls, it'll at least make them feel good. Right, compliments from the girls is like a consolation prize, and a lot of women know that, like, that's probably all they're gonna get. So they play offense with their feelings instead of trying to make themselves more likable. They just decide they're gonna take compliments from the girlies. Is a lot of what happens. Does any martial arts belt system rely on gender, or is it the same for both men and women? In that case, are there any female black belts? I mean, I don't know of any martial arts systems that have any kind of ranking or promotion system that is based off of your gender. And when it comes to black belts, yeah, there's tons of female black belts. I've known a couple. One of the female black belts I knew, she was promoted. She dated her instructor, got married, had a child with him, and then she cheated on him. And this was pretty fucked up because basically this was a woman who was affiliated with my jujitsu affiliation. The way a lot of jujitsu stuff works is you'll have like a brand, and then there will be schools underneath that brand, right? Like you'll have like fight sports, right? You can go down to Miami, there's a fight sports in Miami. I think there's even a fight sports in Deerfield, which is like right next to Miami. There's a fight sports out in, I think, California. There's a fight sports in Boston. I'm almost 100% sure there is, right? This woman was one of the top people at one of the franchises for my jujitsu um brands, right? She was one of the top people at one of the franchises for my jujitsu brand, and she was married to the guy who owned the franchise. Excuse me. She talked him out of continuing on with that franchise. Said, "Hey, we need to go solo, and we need to make our own brand." Now, this guy that she was telling this to was very good friends with the owner of that brand, right? So he decides he's going to listen to his wife. They split. That causes a huge rift between the men. And then she cheats on him anyway. And they end up going their separate ways and they create two separate gyms, two separate brands, right? It was disgusting. That was disgusting when I learned about that. And of course, this chick now, she posts like "you go girl" kind of content on her Instagram. She posts about like, in my darkest hour, I rose from the ashes. And now she's like a nurse. She posts like nursing content and stuff like that because her jujitsu, her solo foray into jujitsu didn't work out. It's just a vile woman, disgusting woman, not even pretty, just like kind of fucking gross, just gross person. Another female black belt I know, actually, I think a month or two ago, maybe 3 months ago at this point, she actually she competed on UFC BJJ. She won her match by armbar very early on into the match. She was always a beast. I trained with her for I think like 2 or 3 years. She was a beast, but she was a fucking bitch. I will say that much. I will say that much. She actually she tricked me into watching softcore porn, which is like a weird, like I know that sounds weird. Basically, there's this movie that was on Netflix. I think it was called 365 Days. I'm pretty sure is what it was called. She told me it was a mafia movie. I'm like, oh, that sounds cool. I like mafia movies. Scorsese's a great fucking director. I didn't think it was by Scorsese, but I was just thinking like Scorsese, Goodfellas, Casino, Sopranos, Gotti, right? That's what I'm thinking about. No, it was basically just like a smut novel in movie form. And in fact, I think it was actually a smut novel that got made into movie form about some Italian mobster. And I mean like legit like Italian, not like New York, New Jersey, like forget about it kind of mobster, like like an actual Italian gangster dude who kidnaps this woman and is like, "You will fall in love with me, I promise you." And of course, she ends up falling in love with him. Oh, excuse me. And there's like graphic depictions of the sex. Like you see a little dick, you see tons of titties and ass, you see like fellatio and stuff like that, and it's like, yo, what are you trying to have me watch, lady? What is your problem? What is your problem? What are you doing? What's going on, Mid Melfi? How you doing? You as well, yeah, buddy. Hope you're doing well tonight. Forget if I already said hello to you, Andrew, but hello. Hope you're doing well as well. But yeah. Overall, yeah, there's plenty of female black belts out there. I would learn under one, but I don't know that I would trust them 100%. I got to be honest with you. Um, How's it going, Scott? I just got my first 2 stripes in BJJ, going to Hawaii, and found a good gym to train at. Owner is a Brazilian competitor, so it should be good. Good for you, man. Hell yeah. I remember my first I got my first 2 stripes at the same time as well. I competed in a jiu-jitsu tournament. It was an in-house tournament, and I took second in the tournament. And when I took second in the tournament, they decided that I deserved 2 stripes. So, the next class I got 2 stripes, and that was really cool. But yeah, congratulations, man. Keep on going. Keep on going. I know you're going to. You always come in here and tell me about how dedicated you are, and I see you in the gym all the time on Instagram, but keep on going. Uh we had a trans guy try to do the women's Muay Thai, but the owners had to give him private lessons on the side because he was freaking out the women. Our women's class is paused, so the trans is gone. Oof, man. Yeah, like when I did karate, I did it at a dojo, if you want to call it that, where the owner was a left winger and like pretty far left. Not like completely insufferable, but it painted the way some things were. It painted some of the things that she had to say and everything like that. And she was respectful. I want to give her credit. She was respectful to me with the whole I don't do the whole like gender ideology thing. She never tried to force that on me. So I really do appreciate that about her. But there were people like we had a trans woman, so a man, and I never had issues with this person. Like they were not like bad to me or anything like that. But it's just like to force somebody to have to go along with like a very abnormal or unnatural delusion, and treat it as though it is 100% like that's just the way it is. It's like you got to understand, even somebody who doesn't want problems and wants somebody to feel comfortable around them, which is what I wanted for this person. That's still like that's a tall order. I'm sitting here doing fucking drills with this person, and they're clearly wearing women's antiperspirant, which is failing. And that's their like gender affirming care type stuff, is like I'm going to use lady speed stick, and then not even halfway through the class I'm going to start stinking up this corner of the room because the lady speed stick was not made for the armpits of a man, which is what I have. Even if I am a woman in a man's body, I am still in a man's body. So I'm going to sweat like a man would. I can be a woman, but as long as I got these armpits, these are gonna sweat like a man's, right? So it's just like shit like that. And then there was another person who came in. It was this chick. She was like a teenager, and her mom came in too. And this is like it's just a woman. It's literally just a girl. Like she was like 15, 16, something like that. No they, them, no Zer, no hi. My name is Rex. I'm actually a man. I was just born in a woman's body. Like nothing like that. Everything about this chick was chick. And then I'm sitting there and I'm talking to her mom, and I refer to her daughter as her, and she was like, you mean they? I was like, yeah, sure, they. And then there was another situation with this woman who, the same woman, right? The mother who, when we would introduce ourselves to each other, first off, we would have to do that every class, no matter what. We would do partner drills. We would get teamed up with each other. This is somebody who I've known for like a month or two at this point, but yet every day we have to introduce ourselves to each other, even though there's nobody new in the class and we all know each other. And of course, it can't just be introduce yourselves. It's got to be introduce yourselves, say your name, pronouns, and what did you have to eat today? Is literally what like the instructor would do. And me personally, I would just say I'm Scott, I'm 28, and I had pizza today. I would fill in the he him thing with my age just so that it would stay the same rhythm, just so that I would make sure that I'm not going to like make it too obvious and too awkward, but also I'm not going to play into it. And this is the only woman who had an issue with that whole thing. I was like, hi, my name's Scott. I'm 28 and I had pizza today. And she's like, okay, Scott, he, him literally does that to me. And I was like, sure. Yeah, sure. And then we just went about it. Just like absolute like piece of shit stuff. It's not even about like gender affirming anything. It's about just being as much of a burden as you can to everybody around you half the time. It's about like it's about like causing people to walk on eggshells around you. But this is like 2017 talking points that I'm going over. I'm just sharing with you my experience with trans people in martial arts. We've never had a trans person come into my gym. It was only the karate place. And look, if a trans person came into my gym, I'm not going to be like, fuck you. It's like, whatever. You want to learn martial arts, it's cool. Just don't let me catch you talking about how you want to do something in elementary school and I don't have a problem with you. But also you can't force me to like avow what you're doing either. You can't force me to be like, yes, it's completely natural, it's completely normal. I support it. You're definitely what you say you are. It's like, that's not, no, not happening. Uh, did you hear about Pritchard Cologne passing away? Rest in peace to him. Yes, yes, I did. That is very unfortunate. It sucks. Like I'm sitting here thinking about competing in November, and not in anything like major. It's not going to be like a fight, but I mean, it's going to be a kickboxing tournament. Is essentially what it's going to be. It's organized by a local kung fu tournament, right? They have like the whole kung fu like whoa 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 type shit. They even have, I did like dagger fighting last year. I did Shuai Jiao. I got beat up in the Shuai Jiao tournament. That was like, it's crazy how bad I got beat up at the Shuai Jiao. Shuai Jiao is Chinese jacket wrestling, right? It's a lot different from what you would see in jiu-jitsu, but I had a good time with it nonetheless. It was an interesting experience. But I also was going to do the Sanda tournament, which is, the kickboxing. This year I was like, okay, I'm in a little bit better shape. The timing seems right. I'm going to do my thing and I'm going to get ready. I'm going to actually get some training in and hopefully I'll get some conditioning in to go with that. And I'll come in and I'll be ready for it this time. I'll actually be ready for it and I can do it. And then I'm starting to see like Pritchard Cologne. Oh, he died. Damn. Damn. Shit. And then there was another lady who she fought for Bellator and then she was also a boxer. I guess she has a brain injury now that like it caused her to be unable to work. And it's like, well, gee, I wonder where the boxer got that brain injury from, you know? This is one of the major reasons why I decided I was not going to be a fighter in the way that I wanted to anymore, because I saw that I was probably not going to be the guy dealing out that much brain damage. I was probably going to be the guy taking brain damage because I didn't have anybody who cared enough about me to get me matchups that worked, you know? And I'm not gonna sacrifice my body so that some other guy can live my dream. That's not gonna happen. I'm not gonna be like they say, if you don't know who the fool is at the table, you're the fool. When it comes to things like poker or gambling or anything like that, the same thing goes for boxing and combat sports. If you don't know who the fool is going into this fight, you're probably the fool. So, you know, if I'm looking at my opponent thinking, is that guy a fool? I don't think he's a fool. Well, that means I'm the fool. So, it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate. But yeah, I'm still thinking about competing. Thinking about competing meaning I'm getting ready to like get in shape to compete again, and I'm hoping I can take home a gold medal for it. I'm hoping I can take home the cash prize that is going to come with winning the division if I am able to win the division. And hopefully it'll all work out. Hopefully it'll all work out. But Smart, you shouldn't have to feel obligated to share pronouns anyway. These people are hypocrites. None of it matters. It's gay. I identify as Scott Sullivan. I identify as Scott Sullivan. Holy shit. I've been looking for another one. It seems like 50 Shades of Grey-esque. Yeah, it pretty much is. I would assume you're talking about 365. Let's look. Let's look, right? Like right away. Up, one sec. Right away. Like what the fuck is this? I feel like I gotta. All right, okay. 365 days. Polish 365 Dni is a Polish erotic thriller film directed by Barbara Bialowicz and Thomas Mandes. Holy shit. Based on the first novel of a trilogy by Blanka Lipinska. The plot follows a young Warsaw woman in a relationship falling for a Sicilian man who imprisons and imposes on her a period of 365 days for her to fall in love with him. The film was recently I can't talk today for some reason. The film was released theatrically in Poland on the 7th of February 2020 and was later made available on Netflix on the 7th of June 2020. The film was panned by critics and garnered a rare 0 rating on Rotten Tomatoes. Again, this movie was recommended to me as a mafia movie by some fucking chick. Um, Criticism was directed towards its acting, writing, sex scenes, and romanticization of rape and sexual assault, with many critics drawing unfavorable comparisons to the film 50 Shades of Grey. It has since been referred to as one of the worst films ever made. However, the film became one of the most watched items in numerous territories on multiple continents and had one of the longest periods as the most watched item in Netflix's history in the United States. A sequel to 365 Days, This Day, was released on Netflix in April 27th, 2022. So I wanna see here. I wanna see if there's the reception. 365 Days made the top 3 most viewed items. Oh, get the fuck out of here. I ain't donating shit to you guys. Hope whoever's leading Wikipedia takes a long walk off a short pier. But 365 Days made the top 3 most viewed items on Netflix in numerous countries. Gee, I wonder why. It was the first movie to have 2 multi-day periods as Netflix's #1 movie in the US. It was #1 for 4 days, then replaced in that position by Da 5 Bloods. Okay. But then 3 days later returned to #1. The film has thus had 10 days as #1, the second highest in charts history. Blah blah blah. I just want to see, right? Jessica Kiang of Variety described the film as a thoroughly terrible, politically objectionable, occasionally hilarious Polish humpathon. The Guardian, after citing other media, Variety called it dumber than hair. Cosmopolitan labeled it the worst thing I've ever seen, highlights the film's dismal dialogue, poor character development, and unsexy sex scenes. Like I don't want you guys to watch this, but like I just want you to kind of have a feeling of what I ended up having to go through because I got fucking lied to, you know? What was I gonna say? And this right here tells you about the absolute like fuckery of women and the way that they operate when it comes to stuff like this is like, hold on one sec. I gotta fix my thing. Bada bing, bada boom. There we go. There we go. There we go. There we go. Anyway, um, it really just tells you how fucked up women are because this stayed #1 on Netflix most watched, and yet it was one of the worst things ever made, according to a lot of people. Literally, one of the worst movies ever made, and not in like The Room way where it's so bad it's good. It's literally just bad. That just is what it is, and this is why you can't have a book published anymore unless it's got like tentacle rape. You know, this is why the only books that get published nowadays are smut books for women. That's literally it. Is because when you make a movie out of these things, even though it's literally one of the worst movies of all time, some people consider it to be the worst movie of all time, it still ends up on Netflix's #1 spot for almost 2 weeks, you know? Sounds like clickbait combined with rage bait. Nah, you never know. You never know, but maybe. It's one of the main reasons I don't fuck with my former coach no more. It was pretty fucked up to see my one friend get smoked in his debut kickboxing match against someone who had a 2-3 record. Oh yeah, these yeah. A lot of people don't care. What's going on, Bliss Comet? A lot of people don't care what their fighters go through. A lot of people, it's just like, whatever, I still feel a little bit bad about a couple of different things because I had a guy who we're still friends, but he doesn't go to my gym anymore, but we still train together whenever we can. But like he wanted to fight, so we got him a fight and he was not prepared for that fight in the way that I had hoped that he would be. And I take responsibility for my part in that, right? It wasn't all my fault or his fault. A lot of it was just that he spent so much time doing karate that he ended up going back to the karate stuff is what happened. He like in the ring, he literally reverted to sport karate is what happened. But there were other aspects of it, like the conditioning. I wish I kind of pushed the conditioning a little bit more. I wish I game planned with him a little bit better. And then another big thing would be I wish I prepared him for a lefty. He's had 2 fights so far. He lost both. One of them was to, no, both of them were to lefties, excuse me. One of them one of them was like just kind of a shit show. That was the one where he reverted back to karate a little too much. The second one he did really, really well. It's just that the other guy knew what he had to do halfway. He made the adjustment and he ended up pulling out a really hard fought victory. And that just is what it is. Like that type of stuff will happen. But there's things that I wish that I did that like I try to make sure that I am helping him with whenever we do anything like that. And there's a lot of guys out there that it's just by the numbers. They don't care. It's like, oh, my guy lost, whatever. The only reason they might care is because it might look bad on their gym or something like that. But overall, it's like, whatever. Hey, back to the drawing board. You win or you learn. Am I right? Am I right? You win or you learn is what happens. It's like, no. Fuck you. Get the fuck out of here, How many hours did he train MMA? You talking about the guy that I was training? He trained Muay Thai and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu for about 2 to 3 years at that point. I don't think he was a blue belt. No, he was not a blue belt in Jiu-Jitsu quite yet. He got his blue belt June of last year. So it's been a little over a year since he got his blue belt. He got his blue belt the day that I got my black belt. What was I going to say? But yeah, it wasn't an MMA fight either. It was kickboxing matches. He did a kickboxing match and then he entered into that Sanda tournament that I was talking about that I was supposed to do. But I literally like after the Shuai Jiao, I was just spent. I was coughing like a smoker. Like that's how you know you're out of shape is when you start doing a little bit of exercise and you start like hacking up a lung. All you did was like run, or you had like a 5 minute or no, I think it was like 3 minute rounds or something like that. We did 3 rounds because Shuai Jiao, I'm pretty sure they do rounds. It's like 2 or 3 minutes a pop for the rounds. That's like not a lot. It's not nothing. It's not nothing. But like the idea that exercise would make me cough as though I was chain smoking cigs all day. It's like, no, that's not good, man. And that's why I didn't bother with it because I was like, yo, like I am not okay. I don't think I can get in there and take punches to the head. It's not gonna go well. Um, Netflix has been pulling crazy shit since Big Mouth and Cuties. It's all bait. Yeah. I could see that, I guess. I could see that. I don't think that's exactly what it is, mid-mouthy, but it wouldn't surprise me if that was like a little bit of what it is. I don't think you're off the mark per se. Um sorry, just a looking around here, just a looking around. Yeah, that shit was pretty depressing to read. He only really lived 22 years, but died at 33. Oh yeah, it's unfortunate. It's really unfortunate. What was I gonna say? Yeah, you got to be careful and you got to wonder if it's going to be worth it for you. You got to wonder like if it's actually something that you want to do and if you're ready to deal with some of those consequences that could occur. And that's why when I talk to people and they say they want to fight, I say, "Hey, like, have a fight or two. It's all good. Try and get a win or two so that you can say you've actually had a win or two." But like if it's just not working out for you, you probably shouldn't try to make it work. I know one guy who kind of turned it around, right? It's a dude that I actually fought at a smoker. I don't know if he would have won or I would have won because it was a smoker. There was no winners declared, but I do think I probably did enough to pull it out. But I mean, this is over 10 years ago at this point, so like, who even gives a shit? But this guy, he went like I'm gonna look him up. I'm gonna look him up, but I'm not gonna show you his name because even though he's got nothing to hide now, like he did very well for himself. I don't want it to be like sorry. I don't want it to be like a I don't want it to be weird. Amateur bouts. Okay, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 losses from 2010 to the late 2010s. He, yeah, just not, you know, not doing too well. Finally, there's a win on his record. Then there's another win. Then there's a loss. Then there's a win. Then there's a win. And he had more fights that are not on his Tapology or anything like that. However, like, if you take a look at his record according to Tapology, you would assume like, oh, this guy doesn't, he ain't doing too hot, you know. And this is a dude who would go to, this is a dude who would go to Thailand, and he would have a couple of wins in Thailand, which is like a big deal. If you go to Thailand, you fight, you win. That's like that's a pretty good notch on your belt there, being able to say you went to the home of Muay Thai and you were able to take it to somebody out there, you know. So good for him, really good for him, you know. Interesting. I'm curious about this. It just says Muay Thai. That's okay. All right. Well, anyway. Damn, 3 minutes is a lot more than 2-minute rounds, despite how it seems to some people. I've only ever fought 2-minute rounds, and that shit is tiring as fuck, despite being prepared. Oh, yeah. Even that 1 minute alone will really change the dynamic. A 2-minute round is like you can have more of a sprint. You can kind of sprint a little bit more, and it's not going to be the worst thing you could do. You can really up the pace, and you can really outwork someone as hard as you can, right? But when it comes to 3-minute rounds, that extra minute makes it so that you're not in a sprint anymore. You're in a marathon, you know. And then think about 4 minutes or 5 minutes, right? Because MMA is typically 5-minute rounds. Amateur MMA is 3-minute rounds, right? But pro MMA is 5 minutes, right? You gotta really make sure you're not blowing your load early on in the fight, you know. Just trying to look around. Yeah, there's a lot of corruption in fighting in all combat sports, and even at the lowest level, I've had some of my homies get some matchups there were not even at all. Oh yeah, 100%. You know, and that's the frustrating thing, and that's why I that's why I want to have a couple more fights, right? I'm gonna explain. I'm gonna explain a couple of things for you guys because I just realized I forgot to finish a point that I was making that is a very important point to make, and then I'm gonna go into how I view fighting now. But when it comes to fighting, you want to do it when you're young and you have nothing to lose. The second you get married, the second you start having kids, if you are not already multiple fights into a pro career, you should probably just pack it up and pack it in because you know what? Like now you have something to live for. Now you have something to lose. If you get hurt and you can't work, all of a sudden you don't have rent to support your family, right? And that's not good. And that's one of the big reasons. It's not just that the game is shitty and, it's corrupt and all this stuff. That is a large, large part of it. Like that is a large part of it. Don't get me wrong. But probably just as large as the fact that the game is fucked up like that. I think about fighting and I think like I've had a couple of injuries in my fights. What if I what if I fuck my knee up again and I can't work? I work with my body. What if I get a concussion and I'm out of work for like a week or two and then my work is like, what the hell, what was wrong with you? A concussion, an MMA fight, what the fuck? And now my work is like weird about it and everything like that, um, when you're younger, your risk tolerance is a lot wider. You have a much, much bigger tolerance for risk. So you can kind of get away with like, oh, well, I'm 21 and I'm doing something where I could get hurt and I might not be able to work, right? For one thing, you bounce back from injuries quicker. That is one thing, right? But then for another thing, it's like, I don't, when I was 21, I didn't have anybody depending on me. So who cares, Now, when it comes to me wanting to fight, one of the frustrating things about the fight game is that nobody cares about the story behind your fight. All they care about is numbers on paper. That's all that matters. I've explained my 3 MMA fights before, and it doesn't matter to people. I only explain it to try and make the point about how the MMA world works. I'm not explaining it to try and be like, so there, I'm actually not bad at MMA, right? But like my first fight was against a guy who was the captain of his college wrestling team. That's, I would say, equivalent to like mid purple belt to an early brown belt, depending on what kind of wrestling program they have and maybe some other factors, right? That is a huge boon to this guy's ability. Me, I was a mediocre at best high school wrestler. I didn't wrestle in college. I got right into MMA and I was a white belt in jujitsu, right? Then on top of that, I was lied to about his experience. I was told he had a little bit of wrestling. I wasn't told that he had a fucking uh, uh, college career where he was the captain of his team under his belt, right? Um, so I go in there, I give it my best shot, I get beat up, right? There's no shame in losing to a guy like that. Why would I be ashamed of losing to a dude who honestly was trying his best to get the easiest fight that he could, and I was just the dummy who said yes? Like, why would I be ashamed of that? I was basically just getting picked on, is what that was. It's like it's fucking annoying and gay, if anything. Even after my fight with this one guy, I gave him too much trouble. So because of that, he decided he would fight a guy who throws his punches like that. Literally, his next fight after mine, it was like 6 or 7 months later, he fought a guy who couldn't even strike, let alone grapple. He fought some dude who was probably training out of a garage somewhere. So it's like there's my first fight. My second fight. Oh, and by the way, this guy is also training with UFC caliber guys. I don't know if I mentioned that. He trained with John Doomsday Howard, right? He trained with Pat Walsh, who was actually my fucking high school wrestling coach, funny enough. These are dudes who were in the UFC or would be in the UFC for brief stints, right? These are guys who are very, very good at what they did. So the bottom line, I don't want to get too deep into like each individual story because that's what I'm doing right now, and I'm kind of trying to like I just want you guys to understand what I'm talking about here. Bottom line is the first guy I fought, uh, he was misrepresented to me. I was told he had a little bit of wrestling experience. He had a lot of wrestling experience. He was also training with some of the best guys in the region at that point. I get beat up. The next guy I fought, he was training under a former UFC guy, Jorge Rivera or George Rivera. I still don't know how to say his first name, but and that was also one of the better gyms in the area. They had a lot of dudes who were really serious about it. I beat that guy, right? The third guy I fought trained with again more UFC caliber guys. Like I'm the underdog going into these fights with dudes who like they're like coming from legit gyms and I'm practically training myself. Nobody's going to care about that though, right? Nobody's going to care about that kind of thing. They're just going to go, oh, well, you're 1-2, so that means you must be bad. They're not going to care that the two losses I have were to dudes that like would beat most people, you know? I did a bad job of kind of explaining that because I'm not going to lie to you. It does get under my skin in a way that it's like, the way a plumber might be upset if somebody tried to talk about plumbing. That's kind of how I feel where it's like, okay, you don't know what you're talking about and yet you think you're going to tell me anything. It's like, no, that's not how it's going to work. It gets under my skin. So sometimes when I do talk about it, I kind of go a little bit too into detail. When it comes to me fighting now, what I want to do is I want to make sure I take fights that make sense. I'm not just going to get given a name and be like, yes, which is basically what happened with those three guys is I was given a name and I was just like, okay, sure. No real, there was no real consideration. There was no research done or anything like that. Right. Just, yeah, that's the guy you want me to fight. I will fight him. Yes, sir. I will do it. Literally that type of stuff. And because of that, I know that if I do fight again, it's going to be better for me to do that research, to say no if I really don't like the matchup, and take a matchup that makes sense where I think the cards are probably, the deck is probably stacked in my favor skill wise. And then when I get the win, nobody's going to ask, yeah, but who did you beat? Nobody's going to ask that. They're just going to go, oh, you beat that guy. Wow, good for you. You know, if I get 2 or 3 wins as a pro and I'm like, okay, let's call it quits, right? Nobody's going to be like, well, who did you beat as a pro? They're just going to be like, oh, 3-0. Wow, you must be really, really good. Um, so yeah, overall, I guess if I could wrap that point up, if I could wrap that point up in a more succinct manner, um, you know, overall, you got to be careful. You got to start fighting early and start fighting when you don't have anything to lose. And you also have to be very careful about who you fight because, for one thing, you're just going to be taking brain damage. And for another thing, nobody's going to question how the fight went. No one's going to go, oh, well, it says you lost to this guy here. Well, was it at least a good fight? Did you put up a good fight where, you did everything you could? Did you give almost as good as you got? No one's going to ask that. They're just going to be like, oh, it says you lost, so that must mean you suck. So it's like, yeah, whatever. Fight Natan Levy. I would beat the fuck out of Natan Levy, and I know that for fact. Even if I got down to 155, which is possible, but it would really suck. Or better yet, if he came up to like 170, 185, I would beat the piss out of Natan Levy. I know that. I know I would beat the hell out of that guy. You know? It's all numbers. Fighting stats are more complicated than wins and losses. Exactly. It's more complicated than wins and losses, but most people don't want to put in that effort to be like, well, I mean, why did this guy win or why did this guy lose? Could it be that he won because he was fighting a cardboard cutout of like fucking Seth Green? Did they put a cardboard cutout of Seth Green in the cage and have this dude wail on it and then raise his hand and call him the victor? Or did he actually fight a dude who was on his level? Nobody asks that kind of question. There's so many dudes out there that's what their early career is. They fight dudes that are like they're like shitting their pants and stuff like that, Natan Levy is such a prick. He really is. He really is, Um oh man. Excuse me. It is a little hot in here. It's not that hot though. It's not that hot. But yeah, that's my you see, I'm mad because I was doing such a good job talking about that, and then I started to kind of like veer into, like I said, I was over explaining each of my individual fights. I should have just left it as the first guy I fought, he was misrepresented to me. He was a lot more experienced than I was led to believe. I would not have taken the fight if I knew how experienced he was, and he was training with UFC guys. Second fight, dude trained with a former UFC guy and he trained with a lot of like legit dudes in the region. He was getting really good instruction, really good camp that he was a part of. I did beat him. Hooray for me. Third fight, again, a dude who was training with UFC caliber guys. He was in one of the premier gyms in the region and I lost. I should have just left it at that, but you know. I wanted to make sure people understood what I was saying, and because of that, I made it harder to understand what I was saying. You know, you know, you know. What's going on? What's going on, Kobe Shinobi? Hope you're doing well. I'm sure you get asked this all the time, but who are the most entertaining fighters currently active in the UFC as of now, in your opinion? That is a tough one because a lot of guys, in my opinion, are not that fun to watch. I would say Alex Pereira, and that's why Alex is so like loved. It's almost like Reddit to say Alex Pereira, but like he's so loved because he is entertaining to watch, right? His persona is something that some people can get behind. And then he flatlines dudes a lot of the time. And I do think that Cyril Gahn got lucky. But we can have that argument another time, I suppose. Um, I'm trying to think of who else. Sean O'Malley is good. I do like Sean O'Malley. Um, Trying to think who else. There is an entertainment drought in the UFC, and it's been that way for a long time. And I feel like maybe it's starting to kind of get better. But I'm not 100% sure if it is, we will have to wait and see what the next 6 to 12 months has to offer for us. But I would say Alex Pereira, Sean O'Malley. I don't mind. Oh, Josh Hokett is fun. I do like Josh Hokett. He's kind of a newer personality that we're seeing. I like him in and out of the cage. So many people are just anti-fun. They're just anti-fun. They want to be nerds all the time. So when they see Josh Hokett in his bandana pretending to be the Macho Man Randy Savage, they're like, I don't like this. It's so funny actually. I was at the UFC 250 event. I was at the Fan Fest, so there was a bunch of I was in the Goy field. I was in the Goy field for the UFC 250 event. I wasn't actually sitting in the stands. There was 80,000 people watching on giant jumbotrons in the middle of a field at the Ellipse, south of the White House South Lawn. And I remember Hokett both during the weigh-in as well as when he was walking out and like doing his whole thing. The crowd just went fucking silent. He comes out, he starts doing his like, I'm gonna shama on your mama. He starts doing that shit and nobody goes, oh, literally everyone's just like, oh. It was whatever the opposite of a crowd pop is, whatever the opposite of a pop is, that's what happened. That's what happened. It's so funny that happened. But yeah, I do like Hokett. I do like him. And I think if you don't like him, there's probably an aspect of you that is anti-fun. It's just my opinion, man. It's just my opinion. You know. Um, I love Josh Hokett. I don't get why people hate on him. Exactly. Like why do we got to be so fucking like boring and drab all the time? Like the guy's coming out, he clearly knows he's being outrageous. That's the whole point, right? But like for some reason people are just like, "No, no. I don't like that. Dude, he's so fucking cringe." Like a lot of people just want to feel like they're the coolest fucking cat. They want to feel like they're the coolest. They want to feel like they're too cool for they're too cool for school. And it's like, nah, you guys fucking suck. You guys fucking suck. I don't need generic UFC guy number 327 who goes to the press conference, sits down and goes, "And on Saturday I'm going to punch you." It's like, yeah, that's what everyone is here to try and win their fights, dude. Everyone is here to try and batter the other guy into submission. Everyone is here to do exactly what you're here to do, and you're saying that that's all you're here to do. That's fucking boring. It's unimaginative. It's not creative. You're not a creative person. It's annoying. It's fucking annoying. Stop that shit. Get it out of my face. Oh man. Tommy McMillan is entertaining. I think he's only had one fight, but he broke a striking record in it. Damn, that's pretty crazy. I don't think I've ever heard of Tommy McMillan, or if I have, it just doesn't sound familiar to me. Yeah. Excuse me. I feel like the hate on Hokett is so forced. Dude is actually trying to be entertaining for the fans, and people are shitty on him for no real reason. His fight with Blades was super entertaining. Oh yeah, for sure. His fight with Derek Lewis was super entertaining. Like I don't. I don't like. This is something that's true about comedy, and this is one of the ways that like being a stand up is kind of bullshit, or just like being a comedian in general is bullshit. Like comedy relies on the audience's willingness to laugh at whatever the comedian is saying, whether it's stand up or whether it's something else. It all has to do with whether or not someone will permit you to be funny. You could tell the absolute objectively funniest joke ever. There has never been a joke funnier than the one you just thought up a second ago and you decided to tell. And your worst enemy sitting right there listening to you tell that joke would be like, "What, you think that's funny? What, you think that's funny or something, dude? That was fucking stupid, dude." Like, comedy, or haters, I guess you could say, haters are allergic to comedy. Haters are allergic to comedy. And I'm not even saying everybody who doesn't like Josh Hokett is a hater necessarily, but they are people who have made a conscious decision a lot of the time to not humor the guy. You have to humor a comedian. What do you think humoring? Why do you think they call it humoring? Why do you think they say like humor me and things like that? It's because you know not to take them too seriously, but you're listening to them in the first place because maybe something will come of it, you know? But there's a lot of people out there that like it's like I said, they want to be too cool for school, and this is why I don't like people. And like this is it's why I don't like people and why I try to avoid people a lot of the time is because I can remember growing up and like Boston is a very funny place, but it's only because of like a certain type of guy. If you're not that certain type of guy, you're probably a humorless fucking asshole and like you suck. And I grew up around those humorless assholes, the types of dudes who like they tell a joke and because again, everyone decided that they want to laugh at this person's joke, they laugh at the joke. It's not that the joke is that funny. It could be, it could not be, but like people understand they are humoring this person, but like I've seen it before where I'll say something or somebody else will say something and everyone pretends like it's not a joke and it's super duper serious and things like that, you know. That's like the worst situation to be in with anybody is like you're just sitting here trying to chill and everyone's laughing and joking and you tell a joke, even if it's like a fucked up joke, it's clearly a joke, you know. You don't actually mean it, and the person who either hates you or the person you tell the joke to who have decided that they're not going to humor you in any way, they're like, oh dude, whoa, whoa, Jesus dude, what the fuck, you know. I a great example is 9/11 jokes where like I can remember my brother when we were and nah, you know, I'm not even gonna bother telling that story. I'm not even gonna bother telling that story. I can already tell that's one of those stories, just like when I was getting too deep into explaining the story with my fight record. It's like, nah, I'm gonna end up fucking that up and it's gonna be long and like complicated and annoying, you know. So I'm not even gonna bother telling that joke. But uh, a lot of that type of stuff comes down to whether or not somebody has decided they're going to laugh, has decided if they're going to humor you. And you know it's annoying to be around people like that, but there's people who don't get a lot of finishes but the actual fights they have are dynamic and interesting, such as Dominic Cruz and Marab. Yeah, you know, I could see that. Or I agree, you know. Oh, excuse me. Cheeto got paid to throw, prove me wrong. What paid to throw the Sean O'Malley fight is what I would guess you're talking about, Mid Melfi. Oh, excuse me. I would guess that's what you're talking about. I would guess so. I would guess so. Yeah. Ah, sorry, I'm trying to click out of something here. I want to get that smut. I want to get that smut off of my thing. Um, come on. There we go. Yeah. Ah. It's not that I blanked. It's just that like I feel like I've exhausted that topic. You know, I feel like I've exhausted that topic. So now I'm like, what are we gonna talk about now? You know, I was gonna talk about a tweet that I made because I tried to talk about the Lindsay Clancy thing, right? And I did not do that good of a job talking about it. But I made a tweet that I could read off that kind of gives my actual opinion on the topic. And apparently, a lot of the stupid TikTok hoes found the a lot of the stupid TikTok hoes found that tweet. But I said, so for those of you that are not aware, there is a lady named Lindsay Clancy who is in the Boston area. I don't know if it's Boston proper or the Boston area, but she actually lives not too far from where I happen to be. And this woman ended up murdering her three children. She sent her husband out to get some groceries or something like that, is what I'm hearing. And she brought the kids down into the basement and she strangled them one by one with an exercise band, is apparently what happened. That is allegedly what happened. And I guess her defense attorney is not arguing that she did not do it. What the defense attorney is arguing is that it was from postpartum depression, or what they're calling it now, which is postpartum psychosis, which is just their way of trying to ratchet up postpartum depression. I'll talk a little bit about that after. But um, they're trying to argue that she cannot be held liable for it because she was clinically insane or something like that. And I tried to talk about it on Thursday, not Tuesday, excuse me, but I didn't do that good of a job. So I'm going to read what I wrote. I said, postpartum depression is fake. It's the result of ego death from someone who's told they're the center of the universe by every institution or authority, suddenly being forced to come second. Some can't cope and go ballistic, usually aided by the psych industry, which is exactly what happened with Lindsay Clancy. She was medicated by a bunch of different psychologists. One psychologist or psychiatrist, excuse me, I tend to use them interchangeably, even though they're not exactly the same thing, psychologist and psychiatrist. But um, when it comes to the one psychiatrist that told her that she was perfectly fine, she was just over medicated, she didn't bother to listen to that psychiatrist. She immediately went looking for another psychiatrist that would give her more drugs and things like that. The second half of it was, I'm not saying there will be no adjustment to being a mother. Women will react in their own ways and it will be stressful. But most women and men who are now fathers make the adjustment and are fine. They give in and accept that they aren't number one anymore, that they have less freedom and more responsibility, and that it's not always pats on the back and attaboys or attagirls. And this is exactly what I believe it to be. I got to be honest with you, because for one thing, there's never been any legitimate proof of any of these psychological disorders, depression, ADHD, bipolar, even autism and everything like that. There's no actual proof that those exist. And even if there was proof that they exist, you're not having brain scans run on everybody who comes in and says, man, I can't get out of bed in the morning and I'm always deflated. Sometimes I'm just straight up sad. Other times I just feel like, just down in the dumps, and I wonder what's the problem, what's the point in moving forward and everything like that. Whenever somebody goes into a psychiatrist's office and starts saying things like that, they aren't like given physical tests. It's just the psychiatrist says, hey, take these pills. Go here's some Zoloft, here's some Prozac, take these pills. Take these pills. We'll see how they make you feel. Um but a lot of the time, these women, especially these women, but dudes do it, but not nearly at the rate that women do. These women, in order to cope with the fact that they are spoiled, they will utilize different diagnoses that they give to themselves as a means to try and justify the shitty behavior. Now, am I saying that this woman, Lindsay Clancy, was self diagnosing or anything like that? No, I mean, she was going to psychiatrists and things like that. So she was being diagnosed with different things. However, the diagnoses were bullshit. And if she had just gotten over herself, I guarantee you her kids would still be alive and she would be doing just fine right now. A lot of the problem with the world today is that we tell people that they can have everything they want, specifically women. We don't tell this to men nearly as much, but we tell women this, that they can have whatever they want, whenever they want, at a moment's notice. They need to have all the affection, all the validation, all of the everything good. They get to have it. And if they cannot find it in the moment, it's usually because they're being mistreated in some way, shape, or form. There is somebody somewhere, usually it's a man, who is treating them poorly, is not doing what they're supposed to be doing. And when these women who were treated this way for what is a lot of the time 30 years of their lives, their entire lives, they suddenly have a child, well, it doesn't matter what they were told. This child comes first over and above everyone and everything else. So you have these women who, when they have the children, they go fucking ballistic because they are not getting what they want anymore. That is a huge, huge ego killer. To be told that you're the most important person ever, no matter what, and then you pop another child, you pop a child out from between your legs. In some cases, it's two or three, I guess. And because you have to actually raise the child, some bad things will happen. Some bad things will happen when you get somebody who is in that situation, you know? Man, it's it's gross. It's disgusting. Uh we give women too much leeway. We give women too much leeway and we allow them to believe that they're more important than they are. And I mean, that's what ends up happening. And a lot of the women who are in support of Lindsay Clancy, they found the tweet, you know. Get the fuck out of here. They found the tweet and now they're mad about it and everything like that, you know? But honestly, I mean, they're not doing themselves any favors. They're not doing themselves any favors. My mom self-diagnosed herself as ADHD and partially autistic after a short virtual psych visit. I tried explaining to her that she's fine, but she doesn't want to believe me. Oh yeah, because it's not about whether or not she's actually sick. It's about her getting what she wants. And I know that's your mom, you know, Kobe Shinobi. I don't want to talk shit about your mom or anything like that, you know. But just in general, when somebody is like that, it's because they're trying to get something. They want something. They want a get out of jail free card. They want the ability to like force people to go along with whatever it is they want them to go along with. And they also want to try and shame people into accepting their poor behavior. You know, it's like I'm sitting here, I diagnose myself with ADHD, and I'm just here with this pepper spray, right? I just have this pepper spray, and you're talking to me, and I'm like, yeah, yeah, oh, huh. And the intrusive thoughts hit, and I start do 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 do, and then eventually I spray you because I think I'm Mr. ADHD. I'm going to sit there instead of being like, oh, holy shit, I need to be more careful and I need to be more responsible. That was not only rude of me to ignore you, but then I also just fucking assaulted you. It was an accident, but like, I mean, I should have known better than to play with this thing. Like, instead of being that way, which would be the grown up, the adult thing to do, my answer might be, well, you see, actually, I have ADHD, which means I have a hard time focusing, and sometimes intrusive thoughts hit and they win. And because of that, I end up spraying someone with fucking pepper spray every now and again. So you can't be mad at me. You have to understand that I am neurodivergent. And just because you're neurotypical, that doesn't mean you're better than me. You need to be more accepting of my neurodivergence. You're being rude to me if you don't let me do this to you and then not yell at me for it, you know? You should spray yourself for the fans. I've gassed myself with this thing more than I have other people. When you spray, it goes everywhere. It's not just like, you know, spraying and then none of it gets here. So what ends up happening usually is I'll test it once in a while, I'll spray, and then I put it in my pocket. And when I put it in my pocket, I end up doing that or something, right? And then I'll be like going for a walk because that's why I keep this thing is I go for night walks sometimes. And I'll have like a bead of sweat running down and I'll be like, "Whoa," and then I'll feel heat. I'll feel heat, and I'll be like, "Oh, what the fuck? What the fuck?" I've gotten it up my nose before because, like, you know, I'm going on a night walk, and you know, I feel something itch, and I kind of just real quick, you know, just trying to see if I can dislodge whatever is itching in there, and then all of a sudden I'm like, "Ow, ow, ow, fuck, ow, ow, ow," you know. It also, if you inhale it, it irritates your throat and your lungs, you know. So that is really annoying, you know. Um, it's almost like those people crave attention in some way as well. It's unfortunate. Oh yeah, you know. I mean, the whole psych field, you have to understand, was made by druggies and sexual abusers, sometimes of underage boys and girls. You know, like the whole of the psych field was made by those kinds of people. So with that in mind, why would you ever believe anything they have to say about anything? Ever. No matter what. Even the people today, they are taking from the foundations that were laid by people like Freud and Adler. I don't know too much about Jung. I've heard people talk about Jung favorably, but I am distrustful of him. Even if he was like a saint, I would be distrustful of him. Because at the end of the day, these are not people who are above humanity. They are humans. So they are taking their personal biases and experiences and they are injecting them into whatever academic study they are trying to do about how the mind works and everything like that. And there can be kernels of truth here and there, don't get me wrong, right? But uh, for the most part, their studies, for the most part, anything they come up with is going to be painted the wrong color. It's going to be it's going to be tainted, you know. Oh, excuse me. And you're not going to want to fuck with it. You're not going to want to fuck with it, you know? I know a lot about Jung, and I take things he said with a grain of salt. It's all theoretical. That's psychology. Exactly. It's not a hard science. People treat it like it's a hard science, and it benefits these psychiatrists to have you treat it as a hard science, because then whatever they tell you to do, you're going to do. And I mean, it's like I said, like I don't want to bring up Ellie every time I think about the psych field, but it's like a perfect example from what her sister had to say about it in that Reddit post that was getting shared around. She was depressed. She was not doing well. She was even potentially having some thoughts about doing some bad stuff to her. But when she got prescribed, it was either Zoloft or Prozac. I forget which one it was, but it was one of the major ones that people tend to get prescribed. She kept feeling the way that she felt, but there was just no emotionality about it, you know? And I think that probably had a direct thing to do with why she did what she did. You can argue about other, rumors and other crazy shit about what happened with Ellie after Fish Tank season 4. I'm not here to do that myself, but I do know that the last thing you want to do is think about something like that logically, because if there is no emotion in that, then there's probably going to be a situation where you find yourself saying, there is no logical reason for me to keep going, so I think I'm just going to not keep going. And it wouldn't surprise me if that's what happened with Ellie, because that's what happened. Is she said that she had no feelings, that she still had bad thoughts, she still wanted to do bad things to herself and everything like that, but there was no emotionality surrounding it. The fact is, sometimes we cry as a defense mechanism. Like when the bully was messing with me in school, I would cry in self-defense, is what I would do. If High Ecuador was here right now, he would have loved that shit. But what's going on, Snowman Slasher? Hope you're doing well tonight. But like fuck. Oh yeah, like crying is a defense mechanism, an outpouring of anger is a defense mechanism. It may not seem like it all the time, but like if I am feeling that bad as to where I want to die, and my emotions overtake me because of that feeling and I cry, I might bring myself from up here, at least to down here. And because of that, even if I still feel like maybe I want to die, I might not do it in that moment. Because, like I said, I'm not thinking about things logically. I'm not thinking about, like, oh, well, my life is basically over because this happened and that happened and that happened. So why don't I just fucking do it? Like, you're not going to be thinking about it like that. You're going to be thinking like, oh my gosh, my life is over. And then when you're done with the cry, because of that outpouring of emotion, you were able to kind of get down from the peak, right? And that in that moment is like, that's what you need. The important thing is that you don't do it. So even if you still feel that way a little bit, but you've kind of stepped down, you've de-escalated just enough that like you're like, okay, maybe I won't do it this time. That cry was a good thing. That outpouring of anger was a good thing, where you're like putting holes in your wall and shit like that. It's easier to patch up holes in your wall than it is to fucking, have your loved ones plan a funeral and then probably a cremation for you. Oh man, real, just a small pause at least. Yeah, and I think that's a good way to put it. That outpouring of emotion, whether it's crying or anger or anything else like that, it's like a small pause. It kind of, it breaks you from the chain of events that you're in the middle of trying to enact. It feels very disturbing. SSRIs are supposed to be a temporary solution. It's not meant to be taken for life. Well, the unfortunate thing is most people end up on them for a long time, a lot longer than they should be. I don't think SSRIs should be used at all because, like, again, like I was saying, okay, you take your SSRIs, you still feel like you want to die, but now you don't have that pause moment that Snowman Slasher, who's watching on Twitch, by the way, like you're not having that pause moment anymore. It's just go go go. you know a lot of the things when it comes to the psychological field, I'm not saying all of them, because you know what, I do believe schizophrenia is a thing. I do believe that narcissism and sociopathy are a thing, but like a lot of things, and that includes things like autism, depression, bipolar disorder, ADHD, and postpartum depression. And now, like I said, they're trying to escalate the wording behind postpartum depression into postpartum psychosis to normalize it, so that every time a woman murders her children, like Lindsay Clancy did, they'll just be like, it was postpartum psychosis, give her an ice cream cone and send her home. Give her a blanket and some hot cocoa, and lock her husband up because her husband clearly didn't do the dishes enough. The husband clearly didn't write her enough love letters. So, it's actually probably the husband's fault that the kids are dead anyway. That's what they're trying to do with that postpartum psychosis shit, is they're trying to put people into that type of situation. Like, it's all bullshit. It's all made up. It's all a means of trying to keep you dependent on the psychiatrist who is prescribing you medications or whatever other treatment that they're trying to make you take or do. What's going on, WH? Women are hysterical. Men got to keep them in line. Yes. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. Mental illness is never an excuse for violence. Exactly. And I mean, mental illness is never an excuse for violence if you're a man. If you're a woman, I mean, look at this. Look at this. She's about to be jailed for life for something her husband did. You see, this person right here believes that it was the husband who killed the kids, and this chick is being this chick is being this chick is being wrongfully accused. She's being framed. You have, I want to become a lawyer to defend women like Lindsay Clancy. I mean, look at those eyes, dude. These are not the eyes of somebody who you could trust. These are alligator eyes. These are these eyes. These are the eyes of a predator. These are the eyes of a predator. You can tell. I mean, look at this, right? Look at this. This is not just a bad, picture taken at the wrong time or anything like that. Even here, it's like you can tell there's nothing in the eyes. She's got reptilian eyes is what she does. She may be trying with like her lips or whatever, she's like squinting a little bit. She may be trying to appear sad, but she's not, she's just trying to appear that way. This is not her. New theory. He killed the kids. He was the voice she heard. He threw her out the window. She woke up and was told what she did. So basically, the story behind this was, like I said, she sends the father of the children out to the store to get some groceries. She brings the kids into the basement, strangles them one by one with an exercise band. Then I guess she slit her wrists and her throat and then jumped out a window. And she probably thought she would like break a leg or something like that. She probably thought she would survive and be laid up for like 3 to 6 weeks or something like that. But no, she ended up paralyzed from the waist down. So there's that. You'll never make me hate Lindsay Clancy. Yep. Well, Emily Rose Chadwick, everybody. Emily Rose Chadwick. Sir, your midwife. It's like, fucking A, dude. I don't know, man. Yeah. I don't know about these hoes either, Sorry, just looking around here. Just a looking around here. Geez, society is cooked. Oh yeah, society is cooked. It's unfortunate. Like, I'm not one of those like black pill chut guys, that's not the way that I think. But I do know that there are some things that are only going to be fixed if and when there is some kind of major singularity that occurs. It doesn't even have to be the world as we know it ending or America collapsing or anything like that. It doesn't even have to be that. But I'm hoping and praying that what will happen is that the children of the generations Z and Alpha will recognize what is going on. I think it's a little bit late for Gen Z, if I'm going to be honest with you. I guess Gen Alpha and whatever comes after Gen Alpha. It'd be funny as hell if we already started calling them Gen Beta. We should definitely call them Gen Beta, but we'll probably call them Gen Bravo, or there will be some other thing like that. I don't know. But when it comes to Gen Alpha and the generation after that, we can only hope and pray that like women start to notice the pattern in that acting the way that a lot of these women from the millennial generation and Gen Z and all these other women, it does not get them anywhere. All it does is get them on antipsychotics that make them psychotic and fucking kill themselves and stuff like that. And hopefully they will kind of back the fuck off of that stuff, you know? Gen Z is even different from Gen Z is even different from the millennial generation, because the millennial generation were just straight up feminists, is what they were. They identified with the feminist movement. Third wave feminism, fourth wave feminism is what they identified with. But what you're seeing from Gen Z is they've replaced pure feminism with sort of like a Machiavellian, social Darwinist philosophy that a lot of these women have, where if you're not like looks maxing, if you're not a millionaire by age 24 or something like that, they think you're a joke. Um, and I'm not saying that's all of them. I'm not saying that's every single one of them, but there's a sizable chunk of Gen Z where like they are elitists in the way that they operate, and if you are not up to snuff in their eyes, then they fucking hate your ass, you know? We can only hope that aside from some kind of collapse or other singularity happening, and everybody is like, whoa, okay, let's pump the brakes here, let's pump the brakes and change the way things go. We can only hope that Gen A and beyond are gonna notice, like, damn, these hoes are fucking insane, and they are not likable, and they destroy everyone and everything around them. Nothing is fun around these stupid hoes, these stupid bitches. Maybe I should be the opposite of what they are. Maybe I should be the exact opposite of what they are. Maybe I shouldn't do the shit that they do. Maybe that's what should happen, you know? I love you, Scott, but sometimes you're on some boomer shit. I don't see how that's boomer shit. You are valid with women using mental illness as an excuse for shitty behavior, though. I don't see how that's boomer shit talking about what I'm talking about. I mean, fucking boomers are like, they're not the first feminists, but they are like the next major feminist, generation after the generation that put women into positions or that granted women voting rights, that granted women suffrage and things like that. Excuse me. So the boomers are like, the boomers are disgusting with it. The boomers are fucking disgusting with it. This is why people should put their trust and faith in God. Yep. Oh yeah. But women can't put their trust and faith in anything other than themselves and like whatever it is that they want out of life and out of everyone around them, So many women, including ones that you'll go to find at a church, are just there because they think they're going to get something out of it, is really what it is, It sucks. It sucks, but hey, that is the way it is, Just got here, curious your thoughts on the surrogate mom who saved the baby from the abortion the womb buyers wanted because a potential defect. Crazy Babylonian times we're living in. Yeah, and you know what? Good for that woman. She's a hero, I'll talk a lot about women, but you know what? That was a really good move on that woman's part, I have a lot of respect for that, and good for her. Good for her. That's a really heroic thing to do. I don't know what other opinion I could have on it. It's just good, thank God. And you know what? I think I heard that she was being sued or something like that. I hope and pray that this woman gets. I hope and pray this woman gets away with it. Sir, like there's. Like surrogacy should be like what abortion is, where it's like, I don't agree with abortion at all. I don't think it's a good thing ever. But you know what? Like from a secular standpoint, I could understand why somebody might be like, look, we should have very rare abortions for situations where it's rape or incest or something like that. It's like, okay, I don't love it. I don't really 100% agree that there should be any abortions, but I could at least kind of make the compromise in that way because, it's like, it's tough for me. It's tough for me to want to be like, well, if a woman's raped, then she should be forced to have the baby, even if I don't think she should get it aborted either, right? That's the most that I would be willing to go with when it comes to abortion. When it comes to surrogacy, I think it should be that you have to prove that you and a woman cannot conceive naturally. There shouldn't be like women or dudes, like two dudes married, two women married. Like they shouldn't be able to have a surrogate. Um, that's not the way it should work. But as I understand it, that's really the only way you get surrogacy. Everything else is just some kind of IVF type of situation or something like that. um, Abortions are sometimes necessary for miscarriages too, like ectopic pregnancy. I don't know exactly what an ectopic pregnancy is, but like, we could sit here and we could argue it out, and like we might be able to come to a conclusion that kind of works for like both sides and stuff like that on some level, right? But overall, like, I think surrogacy should be like what I would find an acceptable abortion opinion, I guess, would be, which is like, it only happens in cases where there is like some kind of medical necessity or extenuating circumstance. Oh, excuse me. Um, Boomer shit, nah, man, that's just common sense. I hate my generation. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of the millennial generation myself. We talk about how much we hate the boomers, and we have a good reason to not like the boomers, but you know what? We're gonna be just like the boomers, just without the really, really nice economy. And I think that makes us worse than the boomers in some ways. Because you know what? Like, even though abortion is a boomer age lie, most boomers probably do not really support the idea of abortion. you know it took until what, like 2015, 20s, I think it was like 2013, 14, or 15 for gay marriage to be legalized federally, right? Like, when these boomers were coming up, there was a lot of left-wing malarkey and stuff like that, but it was tough to get the level that we see today past back when boomers were my age, in their 30s and stuff like that, which, like, by that time they're starting to kind of take over society. That's when boomers started to take over society. It was in their late 20s, early 30s. That's when millennials and Gen X are starting to take over society as well. Millennials are starting to have more of a say in the world around them. But like with millennials, it's like just making the worst decisions in the worst way. It's like they're trying as hard as they can to be as shitty as they can be. And it's like, yeesh, no good, no good. And then we have this like entitled belief that like we should just get free everything, free college, free healthcare, free everything. It's gross. It's gross. Speaking of abortion, I just had a baby. That's a really good segue, Benjamin. Congratulations, man. Really, congratulations. Only 2 weeks old. That's great, man. I think because me and my wife were getting ready to have kids. I'm going to inseminate. I'm going to inseminate at some point over the next year. And I think about what it's gonna be like actually having my kid. It's kind of like how I thought about being married when I was a kid. I was like, man, I wonder who it's gonna be. There's somebody out there that I'm gonna get married to and I'm gonna build a life with, and we're gonna have kids. But like, man, before all that happens, I wonder who it's gonna be. And it was kind of a surreal moment when I met my wife, where like I knew pretty early on that she and I were gonna be married. And I just kind of had a moment where I was like, this is it. This is her. I waited 25 years to figure out what the hell was going on here. And well, hey, the big reveal, and I just wonder what my kid is going to be like. I wonder my kids, we want to have two kids. I wonder what my two kids are going to be like. Are they going to be boys, girls? What kind of personalities are they going to have? What are their interests going to be like? I'm excited because truthfully, life has gotten stale for me. And the only ways that I can make life not stale is usually by traveling. And traveling costs a lot of money, and you need to take a lot of time off work, you know? And I have been told that when you have a child, you kind of get to experience life for like a second time through your child, you know? You get to introduce your child to different things. You know, you give them their first candy bar, they try it, and they're like, whoa, that's so great. And you're like, I know, right? You get to play with Legos with your child. You get to play video games with your child and stuff like that. Like I'm looking forward to that type of stuff. I want to be a dad really bad, you know, and I can't wait to have kids, you know. So again, congratulations, Benjamin Young. You know, get everybody say congrats. All right, I see some people already have, you know, congrats, Ben. Um, an ectopic pregnancy, excuse me, occurs when a fertilized egg implants outside the uterus, most commonly in a fallopian tube. This condition is serious and can lead to life-threatening complications if not treated properly. Oh yeah, you know, yeah, like that. I could see something like that, you know. Um, I'm actually a Gen Z, but I do not relate with a lot of people in my generation. Yeah, I mean, everybody feels that way. Yeah, buddy. You know, like I never like. I actually think I relate a little bit more with Gen Z. I don't love everything about Gen Z, but I do relate with them in a couple of different ways. You know, the thing about Gen Z is there is a zest to them. There's some zesty motherfuckers. You guys are zesty. No, but there is like a vitality to Gen Z that did not exist with millennials, or at the very least late millennials. Early millennials, they still had a little bit of that vitality where, you know, they wanted to have fun, they wanted to have a good time, they wanted to partake in risky behaviors and stuff like that. The way the world has been feminized, we're told to shy away from any and all risky behaviors. And don't get me wrong, it's not good to be doing tons of drugs and drinking and, you know, having like tons of sex, you know, fornicating a ton or anything like that. But um, you know, young people have a pioneer spirit, they have a pirate spirit, and they want extreme they want extreme experiences because those extreme experiences are fun. And if you're doing it the right way, those extreme experiences will form you into a better person. You can use them as a rite of passage, and the that is what the activism stuff that me and Arie took part in, that is what that did for me. Unfortunately, a lot of the guys that I took part in the activism with, they look back at it and they're kind of like, oh, I kind of wish I didn't do that. But I think they just had a bad mindset going into it, if I'm just being honest with you. I think I had the right mindset. And there were some things that happened to them that didn't happen to me, and vice versa, right? But because of the extreme experiences that I had as an activist, because of my years spent dodging law enforcement and fighting the opposition, and you know, muck raking about them, and trying my best to find ways to like propel our political beliefs forward and into the mainstream as best we could. Those experiences formed or helped me to form a more responsible mindset, a calmer mindset, and I know how to be a leader now. I know how to stand on my own 2 feet, and I know how to push forward, and I know how to get people to follow me, and I'm really good at being able to make sure that everybody has what they need, you know? And those are things that I learned partially from the activism and everything like that, you know, or at least the activism gave me the ability, it gave me the opportunity to learn how to do that stuff. Um, and I've noticed that like Gen Z and Gen Alpha, they are a little bit bigger fans of that extremeness, right? I don't mean like political extremism or anything like that, but I mean like um I just see the way they interact with each other. I see some of the stuff on social media, and it's like it reminds me of like early 2000s party culture a little bit. It reminds me of a time where people were like they had video cameras and they were like, yo, dude, I'm going to jump from the roof into the pool. And that was like a cool thing. That was like showing off, trying to show everybody, yeah, I'm badass, right? Like there is a need for that kind of thing. It's just that you need to be able to channel it in a way that's going to be like good for you, you know? Just getting drunk at a party, just popping Molly, or, you know, I think people are doing Coke again. I think Coke is like a big thing again, is what I understand. Just doing that stuff is not going to be a good thing for you, right? You need to channel it properly. MMA is a good way to channel that, truthfully. Um, but yeah, like the crux of what I'm trying to say is I kind of admire Gen Z a little bit, because my generation, the late millennials, they were like losers. They were losers. They didn't want to do anything. They didn't want to be anything. They just wanted to be fucking losers who expected everything to be handed to them, and they expected to be able to try and kill God, but then have a moral system that these flawed humans put into place, where you're just supposed to be a heckin' wholesome Chungus good guy just because there's no reason, nobody has any authority over you in the first place, so nobody can really enforce that in a real way, and you don't get anything for being that way. You're just supposed to be. And then if somebody else doesn't do it, well, because there's no way to enforce it, well, I mean, they just get away with fucking with you, and that's it. Nobody cares. You know, there's no recourse. Um, you know, plus like the whole political left wing thing, like, you know, the majority of millennials, I think, were probably left wing in some broad or acute way. And you know, that like that alienated me from them a lot of the time as well. um Man, I gotta fucking gotta crack my back. Gotta crack my back. Yosemite is awesome. It's better than Yellowstone. Newborns are that was a funny segue to Benjamin Young. You're like, oh hey, I had a baby. Yosemite National Park is fucking sick, dude. But yeah, I've never been to Yosemite or Yellowstone. I've never been to a national park in the first place. I've been to a state park, but not a national park. Um, Oh, excuse me. Newborns are easy. They're just like Tamagotchi. It's all about feed, milk, burp, diaper, and sleep. Nothing else to it. Well, that's good to know, you know, because a lot of people complain about newborns, especially women named Lindsay Clancy. They complain so much they kill their own fucking children. Oh yeah, I can't wait till they're a little older and I can rediscover the ladybug and stuff. Ladybug was the shit when I was 3. I don't know. I don't know if I've ever. I would assume the Ladybug is probably like a children's book, right? Either that or maybe it's a movie. I don't think I've ever. I don't think I've ever heard of it. Thank you. Thank you very much, Femboy Jaxie, for the follow on kick. Thank you so much for being here. I don't know how long you're gonna be here for, but hey, thank you, thank you, thank you for being here. Thank you for being here. I appreciate it. Um, Fuck. What was I gonna say? Yeah, you know, like there's so many people out there. There's so many people out there, and I'm going to tell you a story about something that happened at my work yesterday. But there's so many people out there who they think just because they're older, it means they're men, and they're like, there's like some kind of respectability to them or something like that. You know, like there's this dude. He's in his 40s, at my work, and he asked me in May about an issue that we were having with scheduling, and I have a lot on my plate, so that slipped my mind. I'm the union steward at my work, right? It's my job to be able to try and find answers to that. And it slipped my mind because I have a lot on my plate. I have 100 or more people that I'm responsible for, that I have to make sure that they have like health care. They are getting paid properly. They're not getting fucked over in like big or small ways. And his question, it slipped my mind, you know? So he's in fact, you know what? I'm thinking maybe I'll read you guys the I'm thinking maybe I'll read you guys the thing. Because the exchange happened mainly over email, right? Like this is in May 13th. He asked me this question, and like I said, it slipped my mind. I messed up, my bad, right? I understand why he might be a little bit frustrated with that, but it is now August 11th when he starts hitting me up again. He could have found me at any time. He could have stopped me at any time at work and been like, "Hey, do you have an answer to that question?" And I would have been like, "Oh, dude, I'm sorry. It slipped my mind. Here, I'm going to go look into that right now. I'm going to have an answer for you in the next hour or two, okay?" He could have easily done that at any point, a week later, 2 weeks later, 3 weeks later, but he chose not to. He chose not to. We see each other every day that we're there, and he chose not to. So he says, um, August 11th. I was just wondering how it has been this long and there has not even been um and individual or representative from this union to deal with my what I asked in May. That's literally what he typed. I was like, "Hey, name of the guy. I apologize. It's been hectic and I'm sort of caught in the middle of a lot of stuff from both ends. Can you remind me of what's going on so I can finally get around to looking into it myself and hopefully get you an answer? I'm in tomorrow, and if I can manage, I'll talk to whoever I have to." This guy, he says, "If you read the emails attached, they should explain exactly what I assumed you were going to address 3 months ago. You even said that you would contact the business agent of the union, was also who has also been non-existent this whole shitty experience of this union," right? So right away, he's just being a pussy. He's just being a fucking asshole, dude, you know? Um, I end up sending him a long message basically explaining, like, "Look, man, we've been trying to get your question answered all summer. It's been tough and we've been trying to hash it out. The problem with what you're asking is that it kind of is a gray area that we're trying to fight them over. The wording was a little bit confusing, and because of that, it opens them up to be able to do certain things that we probably don't want them to do, but we can't really stop them from 100%. We're gonna have to fix that the next time we do any kind of bargaining with them, which is gonna be early next year. I won't be around for that because by that time I should have either a separate job, or B, I should be gone. I should be gone with a separate job, right? I'm hoping to move out of Massachusetts, right? I send him a couple of screenshots of our contract, and then I send him the contract itself. And I'm like, "I understand your frustration. I would be frustrated too, and I'm sorry about that. Look, if you think I'm not doing that good of a job, you should definitely get involved because there are aspects of what you do that you can be a lot better of a representative than I can for you and the people that are in your department. So please, like, if you feel that way, definitely get involved." He goes, "I have a copy of the CBA and have spoken to multiple people regarding this," which means he's already gotten an answer. He just didn't like the answer, so he's fucking bothering me about it. You know, he goes, "What I don't understand is after all this time, no one has done anything but comment on how tricky language is. I've been trying to deal with the shitty way the schedule is done year round since these people left and these people took over, not just in shutdown time. I also understand that the union is there to help people like you." And I'm still confused what he means by that. Like you. What does he mean, like you, who feel they have been wrongly targeted? I told you guys the story of how I was wrongly targeted by my management a couple of years ago, and they tried to bump me off. They literally tried to fire me without cause, and we had to fight them over it. They did the same thing with somebody else. That guy spent just about a year out of the workforce, out of the place, and he actually got reinstated with full back pay. So they had to not only give him his job back, but he also got paid for a year of work that he didn't do because it was found that he was dismissed without cause. So, um, he says, "I also understand that this union is there to help people like you who feel they have been wrongly targeted. Please just send this email chain to whoever took over for blank, and an introduction would be appreciated. Trying to deal with a ghost employee like you is not helping. I don't want to join a group of union people who are trying to protect people who barely do their job. If that is too much," he said two as in TO, "just send me the contact information for the new person whose job it is to help the union members of this place." And honestly, at that point, I was like, okay, I'll send him the information for the guy that I'm now talking to, who is like from the union office. I go to this guy, I pull him aside with one of our managers, and I just straight up tell him, look him in the eye. I'm like, yo, I understand you're frustrated, man. I would be too in your situation, but you know what? The way you spoke to me is absolutely unacceptable. Don't ever talk to me like that again. Now, this guy, when I said that, he usually speaks in a deep voice. His voice is, it's not like baritone like mine or anything like. It's not baritone like mine or anything like that. It's not a deep, sultry or velvety voice. A deep, dreamy, velvety voice that makes you tingle between your legs. It's not like mine, but it's a deep enough voice, right? When I start talking to this guy, all of a sudden he's talking like this. It's like this dude is in his 40s. He's gonna send emails like that, and then when he's confronted and someone goes, "Yo, dude, like, don't talk to me like that," he's gonna talk like he's Mickey Mouse. He's gonna talk like his testicles got sucked up into his body, or like he never had any in the first place. He's gonna get trans voice. He's gonna talk like this. He's gonna say, "Well, I don't see why I should have to do this all the time." Like, that is somebody who he never actually went through a rite of passage, right? I told this big story because, for one thing, I'm still a little frustrated by it. I'm not gonna lie. If this was a sane world, I would have been able to challenge that guy to a duel with pistols, and I would have won. If this was a sane world, that would have been within my rights after saying shit like that to me, right? But it's not a sane world, so I have to solve things with my words, which is, of course, the way that I want to do things. It's, of course, the way that I want to do things, right? I'm still a little frustrated about this guy. The reason, though, why he felt comfortable talking to me like that is because he is still a child. He's in his 40s. The dude's got gray hair. The dude's got like 2 kids. There are children raising children in this world today because men are not created. A lot of the time, dudes turn 18 and then they just go about their business as children in an adult body, and they think that they just get to talk to people like that. They think that they can say shit like that through email, and then when someone tries to confront them, the closest thing they'll say to sorry is, "Well, I'm sorry you felt offended." That's literally what he said. He was like, "I'm sorry you felt offended," not "I'm sorry that I said what I said." And I knew that was going to be the closest thing that I could get to an apology from him. So I was like, all right, cool. I just let it be, because I know that this guy is not worth it to try and even argue with. He's a woman is what he is. It's either that he's a child or he's a woman. Maybe he's a little girl. Maybe he's a female child. Maybe that's what it is. But like, because this guy never went through any real adversity in his life, any adversity that was like, okay, if I fuck up, I am in serious danger here. I'm either going to get seriously injured, maybe even killed, or I'm going to go to prison. Because he never went through anything like that. He thinks it's cool to talk to people like that. And then when someone's like, "Hey man, I'm not trying to be an asshole back to you right now, but don't ever talk to me like that again. In fact, I'm even going to tell you that I think you're right to be frustrated, but don't fucking talk to me like that. Oh, and by the way, here's the answer to your question. But again, please don't talk to me like that." And like I said, he didn't give a real apology. He said, basically, "I'm sorry you feel that way," for one thing. And then he just kept bitching and moaning, bitching and moaning, bitching and moaning. I would give him the answer that he was demanding, and he would change goalposts. He would fucking switch goalposts up on me. And I was just like, fucking whatever, dude. The manager that was with me, I'm not saying she sided with me or anything like that, but like, when we walked back, she and I ended up off to the side away from everyone. And she said, "I will say you handled that very well." And I was like, "Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you for being there. I don't want problems with anybody, but like, I'm not going to let someone talk to me like that." And she was like, "Yeah, and he needs to take it with a grain of salt that it's just you trying to take care of 100 people." So she kind of got it. She got it. She understood. It's like, when when a woman is making more sense than a man in that way, it's like, there's something wrong with that man. When the woman in the situation is more reasonable and logical and not nearly as emotional, when she can actually take, and like I do have a respect for this manager. I think she's a cool chick. She can have a bit of an attitude herself sometimes, but you know what? We're all at work. None of us want to be here. I'm gonna let her have her attitude, and I'll have mine. But like you know, when you're that kind of guy that you're gonna talk a mean game over fucking email, and then you're gonna turn around when someone isn't even trying to be like, you want to fucking tussle, buddy? They're just like, hey man, don't talk to me like that. You're gonna be like, whoa, I'm just upset because it's like, dude, go fuck yourself, you know? Piece of shit. Yeah, his estrogen kicked in, you know? His fucking estrogen kicked in. And like, I'm gonna do my job because I'm a man. And a man does the right thing. You know, a man doesn't sit there like, well, you made me mad one day, so I'm not going to help you. If that guy needs help, I'm going to help him. But you know what? I'm not saying hello to him. I'm not interested in like, you know, trying to talk to him. Not that he's interested in talking to me or anything like that. But you know what? Like, I'm not like I'm not going out of my way to be extra friendly with this guy. And if he tries to say shit again, I'm going to be like, dude, I told you fucking once, knock that shit off, dude. There's going to be consequences. You know, as a union steward, I don't have the power to be able to be like, you know, snap my fingers and fucking the gorillas, the two dudes in white coats come out and pick somebody up and bring them into the back or anything like that. I don't have the power to do that, but I absolutely, especially after that first one, and I have it in writing, like I could easily go to the other managers and be like, look, like this guy is being a prick. Would you please have a talk with him and tell him to knock that off? And if he doesn't knock it off, it's just going to get worse for him, you know? And I mean, maybe I'll slip him a free class, you know, maybe I'll slip him a free class and be like, hey, you know, you seem to have a lot to say, dude. You know, I figure maybe you want to stand on that. Here you go. You know, I'd have to wait until a little bit before I'm about to leave, though, is what I'd have to do. I'd have to suck it up until like a month before I leave. Is what I'd have to do, you know? I'm sorry you feel that way. Absolute fake ass apology makes you want to go crazy. Oh yeah, you know. I mean, the thing is, the best thing you can do when everybody's losing their head and when everybody's being unfair is to be fair and like relaxed, you know. That's the best thing that I learned how to do, is not to escalate, but also not to completely back down. And even just that whole, well, I'm sorry you feel that way type of apology, that cut him just to even have to say that, because in his head, the idea that he would have to utter the word sorry other than to demand an apology from me, with the way that this guy is, with how entitled this guy is, you know that that did some kind of like psychic or spiritual damage to him, you know? He probably wants to believe he's slick, but there's also probably a thing in the back of his mind that's like, well, he should have fucking did this though. Why is he coming to me telling me that I can't do this when he's doing that? And blah, 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 you know? There's turmoil going on in that guy's head that is going to far outlast the anger that I feel towards him. And the best thing that you can do in a situation like that is to not sink to that person's level and be like, well, you're a fucking this, you know? Just continue to be like, dude, there's nothing else to say. I gave you what you wanted. You wanted an answer and I gave it to you. All I'm saying is don't talk to me like that again, dude. That's all I'm saying. Don't talk to me like that again. This is not a big thing. Just don't fucking say shit like that to me. You know, that guy sounds like a woman. Yeah, pretty much, man. Ladybugs are like small red bee. Oh, you literally mean like ladybugs, like the bug. I thought you meant ladybug, like, oh, it's a book or a TV show or a movie or something like that. You know, like that's what I figured you meant when you said ladybug. Yeah, ladybugs are cool. You know, I go out of my way to not crush ladybugs. I think they're nice bugs. You know, I found one in my car the other day. I just kind of let it chill there. I don't know where it is now. It probably crawled into a crevice and died. But you know, narc shit, exactly, narcissist shit. You know, the guy's a female, is what it is. You know, he's a fucking lady. He's a lady with a beard that has gray hair, and he thinks because he's got 2 kids. He's one of those people who like you know when you meet someone who's aggressively sarcastic. You know when you meet someone who, like, if you like literally, let's say we're all part of a landscaping company, and we get to this big ass fucking yard, and we have all day to rake these leaves. There's nothing to do after. There's no, like, we don't get any fucking reward for getting to the finish line first or anything like that. So all of us are going to work at our own pace. Well, this is the type of guy who would see you or I working at our own pace and walk over and start trying to chastise us, or start trying to be like, no, you see, here. Like, he's the type of person who would start doing your work for you because in his mind, he can do it better than you because you're not good at your job. He's one of those types of dudes where, like, he's aggressive with his sarcasm, and he is aggressive with his I'm better than you kind of attitude is what he likes to fucking pull. And that is why I never really liked the guy that much in the first place, but I just chalked it up to a difference in personalities. I didn't have a reason to genuinely dislike the guy. I just didn't always want to be around him when I was at work. Now I'm straight up like, this fucking asshole, get out of my face. You know, walk the other way when you see me. I'm going to walk the other way when I see you, you know? But yeah, like, one of those dudes who, in his mind, he's the only one who has an IQ above 100, and he's the only one who knows how to do a job right. When really, a lot of the time, he's just getting on everyone's nerves and making a big mess and, like, being fucking annoying is really what he's doing, you know? Clearly some kind of problem with being able to just, like, not be a fucking asshole. But anyway. It is about time I get out of here, okay? Oh, what the hell? Sorry. It is about time that I get out of here. You know, I do appreciate you guys showing up today as usual. You know, I've noticed that I'm getting even less views than I usually do. I'm usually at least able to break 100 views, but my last stream, it didn't even break, like, I think the 80 mark, or if it did, it hasn't even broken the 100. This stream, as of right now, has not broken the 100 view mark. So, you know, that just means I'm slipping further and further and further into irrelevance again. And for that, I want to say thank you, everybody who did decide to show up for any amount of time today. Thank you so much for being here. You know, I don't know what the future holds. Like I said, there's a very good chance I'm not going to be streaming again. Not streaming again in the future, meaning this is the last stream. What I mean is, like, there's going to be a point where I probably do have to give this up. And, you know, I just want you guys to know that you know, I do appreciate you. I do love you guys. All right. And we will see what happens. I will be streaming most likely until at least the end of the year. And for that, we're going to have, like, a Halloween stream. We're going to try and put together a killer Halloween stream. You know, we'll do, like, a Christmas stream, maybe a New Year's stream, but, you know, we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. Other than that, all right. One last time. Thank you, everybody. All right. I appreciate the hell out of you. And until next time, peace out.
Suck Sullivan, don't mess with his load, or you will get undone. Spinning round and round, bleeding on the ground. Scotty Rocker, laundry killer, no remorse in this beamer. Fabric assassin, hood cleaner, coming for your Rasta queen. Rape on the washing machine, no use to fight back. MMA, knock your nigga head like a KKK. Hush your nigga mouth if you can't walk the talk. Smokes. Me running really, really fast. Ginger eye round the back of me black ass. Chasing me like a devil, pot belly of the beast. Calling me a dickhead, there is no resist. Closing inch by inch, got me in a pinch. Modern day Scotty Rocker, laundry lynch. queen. Rape on the washing machine. No use to fight back. MMA. Knock your nigga head like a KKK. Hush your nigga mouth if you can't walk the talk. Smoke.